Good morning. My name is Rob Elliott, and I'm the editor for the Docket Call, as well as a board member representing the 6th District for the Young Lawyers Conference. This interview that we're doing today is part of an ongoing series where we're getting to know different young lawyers from across the state of Virginia, learning about their career path and how they are involved with the YLC. So my guest joining us today is President-Elect of the YLC, Mr. Ben Shute. Ben, welcome, and thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Rob. Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. Well, thank you. I've got some questions for you today. If you wouldn't mind just starting by introducing yourself, a little bit about yourself and where you're from and how long you've been practicing.
Sure. So my name is Ben Shute. I am an associate at McGuire Woods here in Richmond, Virginia. I've been practicing for, 2016, so going on 8 years now. That is hard to believe. Originally from Arlington, Virginia, and my primary area of practice is regulatory and compliance for the energy sector. So I represent public companies and private companies in regulatory proceedings involving energy issues in front of the State Corporation Commission.
Can you kind of take us through a day-to-day of what a normal work day might look like for you?
Sure. So there are kind of two normal work days, we'll call it, that I've got. One normal work day is, when you're doing standard office work. And the other is when we have hearings, which are probably a bit more exciting for the listeners here. So just to take the first one there, normal office day for me and a normal day involves any number of things and any number of cases, but primarily working on regulatory cases before the commission, as I said. So that involves working directly with engineers, with accountants, with economists, with sometimes mathematicians, to take all of the things that they know, which is just such a vast array of different, issues and factors as it relates to business and energy, generation projects, transmission projects, things like that, taking all of that information and trying to package it down into kind of a digestible application before the commission. And then from there, once an application is submitted, we go through the regulatory process of reviewing that application and turning around and advocating for what we believe to be the appropriate outcome on the regulatory side of things. So that's kind of, we'll call it the first kind of my standard day, if you will. And then the second kind would be when we have a regulatory hearing before the commission. So that typically involves, the end of a case where we have to go and prove our case to the commission. Those are really substantially similar to trials. It involves an administrative judge. We've got witnesses. They go on the stand. They get, we have direct opening statements, cross-examination, all that. And those really are kind of a case-by-case basis that deal with different issues, but they all kind of follow the same format, which is, like a normal trial, we put on our evidence, we put on our witnesses, we show the court, or excuse me, in this case, the commission, what we are advocating for as it relates to an energy project or a generation project or something like that. The other sides weigh in and they put their people on the stand and kind of challenge our positions or sometimes elaborate on them. And then we go from there.
Okay. And in between those 2 days, what would you say there's a percentage breakdown of one or the other? Are you in court a quarter of the time or not court necessarily, but
Yeah, in the hearings. Yeah, so we have about, it depends on, kind of a lot of different factors, but we have about 8 or 9, hearings a year. At least I have about 8 or 9 hearings a year in my role on my team. So those are, we'll call it few and far between in that context, right? Because you're only doing that every so often. But those hearings can last, as long as a week, sometimes 2, 3 days. It really just depends. So for example, I worked on the team that presented the Coastal Virginia offshore wind project to the commission for approval. That is, I believe it's 146 offshore wind turbines, about 26.7 miles off the coast of Virginia Beach. It's one of the largest, if not, I think the largest offshore wind energy project in the United States that's currently under development. But don't quote me on that. I'd have to double check. There might have been some cases that have come up
no,
since. So
no, you
things
said
like
it.
that, yeah, things like that sometimes take a lot of time.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. Is there a part of your day or a part of your practice that you would say is the most enjoyable part of your practice?
Yeah, not part of the day, but definitely part of the practice. So, like I said, one of the things that we have to do, is work with all of the subject matter experts to present this information to the commission, right? So, for let's call it an energy project, right? We have to go before the commission if we want to build a new solar facility, for example. If our client wants to build a new solar facility, we have to go before the commission and show them why this project is within the public convenience and necessity, and get a certificate to that point, or a CPCN, Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity. And so what that involves is really showing the commission a lot of different things, right? It shows them the value of the generation unit. It shows them its profitability over a period of time. It shows them, how the generation unit will contribute to the grid and will add clean energy to everybody's, home usage and so on. And so in order to do all of those things, we have to really understand the business and the engineering side of the projects that we're working on, right? We have to understand the, net present value of the generation unit as it relates to, a standard, combustion engine or a combustion unit. All of this sounds like Greek, I know, but basically, in short, what I really enjoy is diving into the subject matter with these experts that are so knowledgeable, right? It's an opportunity to really every day learn a whole new different subject that has almost nothing to do with the law, right? From engineering and science and math and all of those things that I'm typically very bad at. But it really is quite enjoyable for me to get to really dive into something new every day. It's just there's so much to learn and so much to know.
Well, I'm fluent in Greek, and that sounds nothing like Greek to me.
Well, some other kind of incomprehensible language, we'll say.
All right. So what would you say is the least enjoyable part of your practice?
Oh gosh. I think the least enjoyable has to be, just kind of plowing through the accounting side of things, right? So if let's say you got a public utility that wants to receive cost recovery, from ratepayers or from different folks, in order to put on a new solar, panel or excuse me, a new solar generation project, they have to ask for recovery for that. And so they have to show that the investments and the costs that are put before the commission are reasonable, that they invested the money wisely, that they, made good business decisions and the like. And so that just involves a lot of accounting and a lot of accounting speak, right? A lot of going through the cash working capital, the, kind of deferral balances that we're dealing with, and the amortization and the, kind of depreciation of asset value and the like. And a lot of things which we just never learned in law school. And so while I really enjoy learning about those things, I have to very candidly admit I'm not very good at it. And so I think nobody likes doing things that they're not very good at, right? So it's because it's challenging. I think that's probably my least favorite, but it's just more a function of having to understand, the subject matter that we're dealing with.
Okay. Well, speaking of learning things and learning in the practice of law, is there something you can share with us that you learned the hard way?
Oh gosh, I don't think I've ever learned anything the easy way. Come to think of it, Rob. So one thing that I think comes to mind in particular. Brief background: before I came to McGuire Woods to work in regulatory and compliance, I was an assistant Commonwealth attorney in a couple different locations. And my first job was Gloucester County, Virginia, which is in the Middle Peninsula, right on kind of across the river from Yorktown. And what I really loved about that job was that it gave me the opportunity and the skills to really learn from the ground up. And I had the best bosses in the entire world. I mean, people who I just adored working for and owe an incredible debt of gratitude for their training for me. At the same time, I was, as you would imagine, your first year lawyer who's just out of law school, thinks he knows everything. And there were more than a few occasions where I was very firm in my position as it related to a case. And instead of, opening my ears and listening more than speaking and being cognizant of, different positions and different, opinions about the case, I would dig in and I would be firm in my position and I would refuse to kind of move or go one direction or the other on an issue. And every single time I stuck my heels and stuck into a position, it typically bit me in the backside, just about every single time. And so I would like to think it was quickly, but I didn't. It took a little while. I did eventually learn that no matter how firm I was in my convictions in my cases, whether it was in the prosecution side or what I'm doing now, there is always room to listen to the other side, right? There's always room to be receptive, to hear opposing arguments, and to really be thoughtful about your position, as it relates to what other people might be saying on it. And that was, I wish it wasn't such a difficult lesson for me to learn. I really do. But it took me a while to really understand that if you want to be a good advocate for your client or for your position, the best thing you can do is always keep your ears open and always be paying attention to what you could learn from someone else, no matter how much you believe in what you're saying or what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you have certainly heard this many times because I hear it all the time too, and that's why they call it practicing law, is that you're constantly working
Constant
at it,
practice.
constantly getting better.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so kind of turning our attention now a little bit to your work with the YLC. How has the YLC kind of impacted your law practice, and made you a better lawyer?
Oh gosh. I think the better question is probably how has it not impacted me and how has it not made me a better lawyer? Because that would probably narrow it down a little bit. The
Okay, that
YLC
one
has,
then.
well, so for me, just a little bit of context and background. I went to Indiana University for my undergraduate degree and then also for my graduate degree. So just or for law school, excuse me. So despite being from Virginia and all my family from Virginia and a lifetime Virginia resident, I went to school out of state. And I don't have too many people in my family that are lawyers, and I didn't have a network of folks to kind of get me into the practice when I came back to Virginia after law school. So for me, the YLC was an opportunity to really begin making friends and having a network of people that I could get to know over a period of time. So I got started right when I showed up in Gloucester County, fresh out of law school, as a district representative for District 6, which encompasses a lot of the Middle Peninsula and Williamsburg and goes all the way up to Caroline County and Fredericksburg. And from there, I think the rewards were really just ones which I could never have contemplated, right? I made wonderful friends that I've enjoyed getting to know and cultivating those friendships and developing those personal relationships. It's also given me a platform to do really fun and cool things. So, for example, last year, the YLC put together a CLE on mental health in the workplace, right? To kind of spur the conversation along about burnout and workplace related stress and secondary trauma and all the things that can affect people through their practice, right? And things that are very important issues for lawyers and particularly young lawyers to be aware of. And I wouldn't have been able, I guess maybe I could have done that without the YLC, but the YLC gave me a platform to work on things that I care about and get those things out in front of the legal community at large. And so it was really wonderful for me in that regard. And then finally, I will say one of the other things that I really love about it is that through the YLC, we get to travel all over Virginia to different places. As you know, Rob, being on the board, we have our board meetings in different places in Virginia. We have events in different places in Virginia. And so we get to go to places that sometimes, in some circumstances, are kind of not thought about too often, right? We get to go to Western Virginia and talk to lawyers in Western Virginia and meet with them and have them be part of our board meetings and have them be part of our events. We get to go to different places like that and really get more involved with lawyers all over the place, which I really like. I enjoy meeting new people. I enjoy meeting young lawyers, and it's been a really rewarding way to develop a network of wonderful people and friends all working towards a common cause kind of all across Virginia.
Awesome. Well, Ben, that is all the questions that I have for you today. If there's anything else that you want to share with any of our listeners or viewers, you can certainly have the floor to do that.
Well, yeah, actually, I know I go on and I talk a lot and I probably talk too fast, but to anybody who's out there listening to this, I showed up to Virginia and the YLC not knowing a single, maybe call it two, lawyers in the entire state, right? I had no professional network. I had no friends that were part of the YLC or part of the Virginia Bar generally. And just through the YLC, I was able to develop this wonderful network of people that I've now had the privilege to call my friends and call my coworkers and fellow board members. And so, bar work sometimes gets a bad rep because, that people kind of wonder what the point is and wonder what the value is and so on. To answer that question outright, bar work is always what you make of it, right? If you want to just sit on a committee and not do anything, yeah, you can probably do that. But if you want to really get involved, if you want to make lasting friendships that will, span your entire career, if you want to make an impact on the legal community, if you want to better our profession, the YLC is an incredible place to do that. The people are wonderful. They're just the nicest people in the world. And I really would encourage you to come to the YLC in any capacity you can. Reach out to me personally. My email is probably, all over the internet. Just reach out and try and get involved because it really is a wonderful group of folks that work really hard to make this profession just a little bit better every single day. And I'm really proud to be a part of that.
It really is. It really is a great way to make a difference as a lawyer. And if you are a young lawyer and you want to be a part of the YLC, we're going to put the YLC interest form in the description below of this video. Please reach out to us. Please reach out to our members. Get plugged into the organization. If you are a young lawyer and listening to this and you want to be a part of this interview series, please email me at editor@docketcallnewsletter.com. We'll schedule that and get it set up. I want to again thank my guest Ben Shute for being here today, President-Elect of the YLC. So we look forward to your presidency next year.
You say that now, but once we get there, you're going to be trying to kick me out the door, I'm sure.
Well, again, I want to thank you so much for being here, answering all our questions, and Ben, we'll see you real soon, and everyone that's listening and viewing, thank you so much, and we'll see you real soon. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Rob. Appreciate it.